Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Analyst. So today we're going to be looking at the Champions League match between Manchester City and Real Madrid. So this was the second leg, of course, in which Manchester City won 4-0 to book their place in the final against Inter Milan. So Man City really dominated this game right from the off. The first half was as one-sided as I've ever seen a game. Particularly in the Champions League against the reigning champions, Manchester City just dominated possession. I think in the first half, possession was about 70 to 75 Manchester City's way, which is just extraordinary. But for the game, it finished 59.5% in Manchester City's favour. They had the majority of the shots. As we can see, they had a great balance with which side they attacked. You know, they used their wingers a lot in this game. Real Madrid gave them the ability to use their wingers, but, 35 on the left, 34 on the right, 31 in the middle. That's really balanced. It's really good to see for Manchester City. Made them unpredictable. You can see the action zones are heavily in favour of Manchester City's forward half. So, 41% of the action was in the middle third, and then 40% was in the away third, which was Real Madrid's defensive third. So, a lot of action for Manchester City in their forward half. As we can see by the player positions, most of Manchester City's average positions are in their forward half. We can see Haaland, both wingers, and Kevin De Bruyne are pretty much in the front third most of the game. And Real Madrid's are pretty much tied to the middle or the back third. So really dominant field position by Manchester City. As we go to the heat map, we can also see this as a big red blob pretty much just on the edge of the front third for City, across the whole pitch. So from one side to the other, just outside Madrid's defensive box, so we can see just how dominant Manchester City were at retaining the ball in this area of the field. They had 792 touches to only 573 for Madrid, so they had 200 more touches of the ball, which is quite extraordinary for two teams of this calibre. But we'll start off with the starting formations. So as we can see, Real set up in their usual 4-3-3, this time choosing Militao over Rudiger, but City operated in their 3-2-4-1 with Stones picking up his now usual second pivot position, but then dropping back into the back four when out of possession. So Stones was really key. In the first leg, he tended to operate as part of a back four when playing out, but they didn't really have to do this much, so he was able to really be dominant in this second pivot position. He was really aggressive and assertive in this area. And look at their two first half goals in particular to start. So as we can see here, Manchester City have got it pretty much, they're set up in a forward third area. So they've got their shape set up against Real Madrid's. We can see that due to City's central numbers, Madrid often had to play a very tight shape. So we can see Kevin De Bruyne here is tucked in. Grealish and Gundogan are also really tight. And this has meant that Camavinga's had to come across because it's really, four forwards with Stones coming up. They've got five options pretty much forward of the ball, and it often would leave one of the wingers free. So we can see that Rodri plays the ball out to Silva. Silva's able to receive. We can see that Vinicius Jr. is slow to double team. The role of a winger in a defensive block like this is to help double team the opposition winger with your fullback. He hasn't really done this, and it's meant that Bernardo Silva gets a one-on-one, and a clever run by Stones pulls Kroos out of position, and all Silva has to do is just play an unpressured ball across. Now, because Vinicius Jr. is not quick enough to double team, Camavinga is not as aggressive at pressing the ball because he doesn't want to get stepped, he doesn't want to get dribbled around. But if Vinicius Jr. is there, both of them would be more aggressive and this ball might not get played. So I spoke about this in my review of the first leg, that Madrid's wingers, their poor defensive work rate would be something to watch out for and something City could exploit, and they really did. They played a lot through their wingers on either side because they got a lot of 1v1s. As we can see, Stones gets the ball. Bernardo Silva sort of wanders around, carries on his movement into the box. We can see Vinicius Jr. is trying to press now. Kroos has been pulled out of his midfield position. Camavinga's sort of followed as well. So they've dragged 3 players, and this is how City were able to really abuse Real Madrid's defence. Because they had so many 1v1s, they're able to just manipulate where Madrid's defence would be by just switching play and clever runs, clever passes. So it was really easy for them to break down Madrid's shape. So Stones gets the ball, plays it back to Walker. We can see that Camavinga's had to come and press Walker. I'm still not sure why, but he has, because Walker's wide open. This has meant that Cruz has had to cover for Camavinga. Now, he's not quick enough to cover. Maybe old legs, maybe just he wasn't really thinking. He's expecting Camavinga to have stayed there, but he hasn't. And Walker gets it to KDB because Modric is worried about Silva. He hasn't been able to get to KDB to close down this pass or put pressure on the receive because of Silva's positioning and because Camavinga has left him and Cruz hasn't been quick enough to pick him up. So Modric is caught in no man's land, and that's why Kevin De Bruyne was able to receive, pretty much see Silva under no pressure and play this pass through the 2 Madrid midfielders. And, that's 1-0. That's a goal. 20 minutes in. We can see that the other 3 defenders for Madrid are caught on the other side because City have got 2 players. You don't want to leave defenders 1v1, so that's why Alaba hasn't been able to come across. We can also see Grealish is here as well. So just due to the City's forward numbers, they were just able to get 1v1s everywhere and just pull apart Madrid's defensive shape. So this is the second goal. So this came from a press. City pressed very well. And in this situation, Camavinga felt like he had to come inverted to receive. And that's okay. That's all right. He receives the ball and then plays it out wide. But we can see that City really have good representation here. He has no one else really to go to. He could have carried the ball, let's say, but he's decided to play it out wide to Carvajal. And he continues his run to try and support to create an overload. But as we can see, the City has got good representation here. Kanji's out here as well for any ball that might get played out here. And Grealish goes to press Carvajal. Grealish's defensive work rate, particularly in a press, was sublime in this game. And he causes Carvajal to have to clear because there's really no other options. And Stones is able to recover, head it down to Bernardo Silva. We can see that Camavinga's still out of position. So Silva gets the ball. He plays it out to Grealish and moves forward. So they've got a 2v2 here, which has meant that Carvajal has had to stay back to help protect this. Which has also meant that Camavinga's had to go out to the ball. Now this is alright. It's not perfect, but they've still got a back 4. Camavinga's just at right back, and Carvajal's playing sort of a centre-back position. They're not in perfect position, but you can still look at it that way with Militao at left centre-back and then now Alaba at left back. The problem with this is, once Grealish plays the ball back to Akanji, Camavinga just ditches him and leaves. Now, this is really bad because now it's left Grealish free to just receive it back, and Kevin De Bruyne is still in this position, which means Carvajal can't go out to protect and press Grealish. So Camavinga's made a poor decision to leave him. He should have stayed there, but he's worried about getting back to his position, which I guess in the heat of the moment you can excuse him for, but he really needs to have some game awareness and know that there's no one that's going to be able to pick Grealish up now. And this has meant that Grealish is just able to turn and attack. And we can see Gundogan here, he's got goal side of Valverde, and Valverde pretty much just jogs after him. He doesn't really try and get goal side. Because of De Bruyne, Carvajal can't press and Grealish just waltzes through, plays in Gundogan. Camavinga's still really not in good position. He's sort of at goal side of Silva, but because he's been all over the place, he feels like he has to press this pass. Gundogan attracts 4 Madrid defenders, and the ricochet is bound to go to a City player when you attract this many opposition players, and it has. It bounces off Militao and goes to Silva, and there's no coincidence that one of the wingers scored in this situation. Now this is City were able to really dominate in the midfield third. I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly because most of their play was in the forward third, whether that was pressing or dominating possession. But because of City's 4 in midfield, so Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, John Stones and Rodri, it meant that Madrid's midfield three were often overwhelmed by numbers, and Madrid's wingers didn't help by tucking in either. They were very lazy to try and restrict forward movement from Stones and Rodri. So Valverde and Kroos had to pick up the 2-10s, which meant Modric was really left alone guarding Rodri and Stones. So as we can see here, there's big space here. All Rodri has to do is pass to Stones. Modric has gone to press and Stones can just push into this area. As we can see, Rodrigo's sort of in decent position here. He's tucked in. But Vinicius Jr. really isn't. He would ideally need to be here to block any forward movement, but he hasn't. And that's meant that Stones is able to press forward because the two Madrid 6s are pinned back by the City 10. So it's really great positioning by City and Pep. It's just another example. When Madrid tried to press, they didn't do it collectively, and City were often able to find free players. So we can see here, Gundogan's played it back. Vinicius Jr.'s gone to press, but it really should be Benzema's responsibility, and Vinicius Jr. should be trying to block a pass to Walker, but he's made an uncalculated risk by pressing, and it's easy pass to Walker and he moves forward. And they're able to get Walker free or Akanji free and able to move forward a lot of times because of this. We can see De Bruyne is pinned back Kroos, so they were able to just do this so many times. And then, Walker's able to carry it forward and they're able to set up the ground and forward in the forward third area. So this is just how they're able to dominate field position. It was very easy to move the ball. And then once they were in the forward third, we can see that Gundogan and Kevin De Bruyne would pick up almost striker position. So, if Haaland wasn't there, just imagine a two-striker formation. That's really where they were, except they had Haaland in between. So they had three strikers, which meant that the Madrid shape got really tucked in. Now, if you're going to be really tight, you have to have your wingers come back and help protect. But like I said, I mentioned this in the first leg review. Madrid's wingers were very lazy. They have very lazy defensive work rate, and it caught them out in this game. It didn't quite in the first leg, but it definitely did in this game. Oftentimes, players were just able to chip to Grealish or Silva. So as we can see, this is another build-up from the mid-third. So Akanji just passes to Rodri. We can notice again the ease at which they're able to move the ball forward. We can see Benzema and Vinicius Jr. are just sort of wandering here. Down low, they're not really in a good shape. Ideally, you'd want Vinicius Jr. here. He's got time to get there, but he doesn't. He's very lazy. Rodri presses forward, pulls Modric out of position and plays just across the Stones, and Stones is able to move forward. He's then able to play the ball across to Silva because Vinicius Jr. is not back. He gets back quick enough, but by that stage, Silva's already passed the ball back. Modric has been dragged across. There's really no one protecting this pass to Rodri. As we can see, this has pulled the whole Madrid line sort of across, and Grealish is open on the far side, and all Rodri has to do is chip the ball over to Grealish. And this happened a lot, particularly a chip to Grealish, but Bernardo Silva found a lot of space too because of how they're able to just move the ball at ease through midfield. Again, we can see just the tightness of Madrid's back line. So the back four and the back three, and how easy it was to supply the ball to wide areas for Madrid. Ideally, again, you want your wingers back here in a tight block. If you're going to play a deep block and hit on the counter-attack, I understand that you're going to want players forward, but you need to get the ball back first in order to counter-attack. We see Liverpool, who's a very good counter-attack team. They have Mohamed Salah, Diaz at the moment. They come back and they help defend, and then they go and they dribble the ball forward. Vinicius Jr. is here walking, and so is Rodri. It's very easy for Madrid to play around in the front third. So he passes to Silva. Silva dribbles. We can see De Bruyne's clever run has made it a 2v2. And a pass back here. We can see Grealish is wide open again because the Madrid line's been pulled across because of this 2v2. They want to help support, get numbers over there. And then Akanji's just able to play it to Grealish. And because Carvajal's had to come across, Grealish is able to receive again, waltz forward, And because Rodrigo's not really pressed to stop this pass, and then his work rate back is very poor, Grealish is just sort of able to waltz it in and dink a ball to Haaland, which should have been a goal. Courtois' save was incredible, but that really should have been 1-0, and it's just very poor defending. You know, your defense starts from your forwards. That's how it's played these days. You need really good forward pressure, or your forwards need to come out and help defend with your back line. Otherwise, because of the forward shape that offenses play these days, you need your wingers to come back. You know, City have 5 forwards essentially in that front line, so you need your wingers to come back, and Madrid's wingers just didn't want to do that. But we'll take a look at Madrid in possession now, but in particular Manchester City's forward press. So we can see here that Madrid couldn't really play out due to the City press. You know, Courtois is not as comfortable on the ball as, let's say, Ederson, and oftentimes he would just launch the ball forward. I just want to mention Jack Grealish, and I've got a few clips of Grealish's press. He was sublime with his press tonight. Oftentimes he would be the one to press Courtois and push the ball over to this side where City have even numbers. Because if it goes out this side, you know, Carvajal's got a bit of space because Kanji's really trying to play left back. He doesn't want to have to come up here to press. So Grealish was immense. But first, we'll just look at Manchester City's counter press. So this ball gets taken by Courtois, and he tries to play quickly to Kroos, and Kroos then plays to Benzema. We can see that that's either Stones or Diaz, I can't really tell because of the blur, but he steps up right away to press Benzema. I'd say it's Stones because it's on the right side. Bernardo Silva goes across to press as well. We can see that City have been able to pick up a lot of, you know, Madrid's numbers. You know, Kevin De Bruyne's gone over to Modric. Rodri's in front of Kroos. So Kroos' only real option forward is Benzema. They've taken away most of the options, particularly to the wings. And Stones picks up Benzema straight away, and Bernardo Silva comes across to stop him playing to either of those two players. So it's really great counter pressing. They did that a lot during the game. You know, here we see Grealish's pressure. So he would often press the keeper and force the ball to where City have numbers. So we can see that City have got even numbers on this side. We can see Militao's trying to tell him to get the ball out here, but because of Grealish's good press on Courtois, and then the coverage they have from De Bruyne on this side, and Grealish already moving to sort of cut a pass out to Militao, Modric feels like he has to go this way. And they've almost left space to play to Camavinga. But once he does, Bernardo Silva pushes really hard, and because they've pushed it across to even numbers, he can't really go back because Haaland's got Alaba and Rodri's still got Modric, so he's forced to go down the line, and that's where Kyle Walker feels comfortable pressing aggressively, because even if he gets turned, he's got the pace to catch up to Vinicius Jr. And because of this, he presses really aggressively, causes a poor touch, and Bernardo Silva's able to recover. So Manchester City were very effective at getting the ball out to this side and pressing. In this example, we do have a moment where Madrid attempted to play out. So we can see that Grealish attempts to play the ball, to force the ball sideways. Courtois is able to get it to Kroos, who's then able to pass it out to Militao. This is the moment where Grealish's hard work really shined. Not only did he press Courtois, he's gone to press Kroos so that De Bruyne can sort of roam, and then he's gone and tried to cut off a pass to Carvajal. Now, Akanji does him a favour. Militao doesn't want to pass there because Akanji's right there to press. But Grealish you can see he was trying to cut this off. Militao passes back to Courtois, and then Grealish goes again. So this is his third or fourth effort to press. He presses Courtois, cuts off the pass to Militao, and Courtois launches it forward, and City get the turnover. So the work rate from Grealish, he was really the key in the press, was absolutely amazing. He's really an unsung hero defensively for Manchester City. Now this is the last example of when Madrid were actually able to play out a bit. So Courtois gets the passes to Modric. Modric passes out to Militao because of course Grealish is pressing. So Militao's often left free. They get it to Militao, who does pass to Carvajal. Akanji goes up to press. We can see that Modric has been able to push forward. So he receives, but the problem is there's no one to pass to now. Even though they do get through, City's shape with Rodri coming across meant that Gundogan can now go and press. Modric turns, he notices that the numbers across here, it's a 2v3 in this area. There's really no forward options, there's nowhere to go back to. Potentially Kroos could get it, but when you're under this much pressure, you can't see this pass. So it's really great pressing again. And how often do we see Modric check his pass and turn around and go backwards? Manchester City were able to force him to do this. He tries to do a desperate back heel and it rolls out of bounds, and City were able to again get a forward half turnover. All in all, it was a real domination in all facets of the game for Manchester City. You know, in the second half, Madrid were able to get some possession back, but by that stage the game was dead. You know, Madrid only attempted 6 shots in the second half, and City were able to score twice again. So I think it's City's year. You know, Inter Milan can be very tricky. They play a different formation. They play a 5 at the back. So that could potentially be very good for them because City play pretty much 5 forwards. So it'd be interesting to see how that game goes. I think it'll be a lot more challenging for City than most people think. But we'll wait and see for the match. I'll look forward to it. If you noticed anything in the match that I didn't comment on, make sure to chuck it down in the comments. If you enjoyed the analysis and want to see more, please do subscribe to the channel and like the video if you've enjoyed this analysis. And as always, may your team be forever winning.